During an emergency meeting of the United Nations General Assembly, Arab group condemns Israel's genocide in Gaza. Cyclone Tej causes serious damage in Al Mahra and Hadramaut governorates, displacing thousands. Save the Children organization holds Yemen operations after staffer killed in Houthi jails. Good evening. Welcome to Yemen Today News. I am Abir Ali. 9 Arab countries called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza Strip and an end to the targeting and death of civilians. Foreign ministers of 9 Arab countries signed a statement that the right to self-defense by the United Nations Charter does not justify blatant violations of humanitarian and international law. They rejected any attempts to liquidate the Palestinian issue at the expense of the Palestinian people and the peoples of the region. Another 8 trucks carrying food, medicine and water are expected to cross into Gaza Strip on Friday, as senior United Nations officials said. They have gotten in approximately 74 trucks and expecting another 8 to aid Gaza, which has been hit by unrelenting airstrikes that have killed thousands. There is still no agreement to get fuel into Gaza, and the United Nations Palestinian Refugee Agency has said the absence of fuel was jeopardizing life-saving humanitarian operations there. United Nations General Assembly convened an emergency special session on the Israel massacre in Palestine. Minister of Foreign Affairs said that it has been 3 weeks that the international community has borne witness to ongoing war crimes and genocide. He said that the U.S. and several European countries sided with Israel, and they referred to the Palestinian Liberation Movement as terrorists. Storm Tej in Yemen results in the displacement of Yemenis and the death of many people. Also, people have been injured and homes have been damaged. This report has more.
The Yemen Red Crescent Society reports that a tropical cyclone that has impacted over 35,000 families in the nation has resulted in at least 2 fatalities. The victims were in the southern region of Al Mahra, where Tuesday's intense rains have now tampered down. Tropical storm Tej made a shore in the southeasterly governorate of Al Mahra and continued in the direction of the northwest.
من خلال الإعصار
The storm Tej has hit Wadi Hadramaut, but we've got some work to expand the sewer system. This will help unlock public outlets. We are trying to protect the citizens from this. We called on local authority to work on this, and it was very welcoming about this project. So I thank the workers of this project that worked 24 hours on it.
According to the UN, Cyclone Tej struck a number of governorates in southern eastern Yemen. Al Mahra was the governorate most affected by the storm, as 2 people were killed and 40 others were injured. The storm also caused the displacement of 1,400 people, including 728 children in Hadramaut governorate, while it caused damage to 500 homes in Socotra.
نحن نازحين هنا من بداية الإعصار.
We got displaced here because of the storm, but thank God we had a meal. However, there are many people displaced here and are complaining about not having enough food or water. Also, we don't have beds.
The country has been suffering for almost 9 years now. This has strained its resources, which makes it quite difficult to respond to natural disasters. It's important to provide resources and funding to help the local governments and communities implement measures, emergency plans, and post-disaster recovery.
The special envoy of Yemen concluded a visit to London yesterday, where he engaged in a series of meetings with the Minister of State for the Middle East. Discussions included the latest development in Yemen and the United Nations efforts to facilitate an agreement on measures to improve living conditions in Yemen. Grandberg stressed the pressing need for a political solution to the Yemeni crisis, emphasizing the importance of the international community and Security Council member state. A Bahraini soldier has died days after an attack by Yemen's Houthi rebels on the Saudi Arabian border. The serviceman died of his wounds after the attack, said the Bahraini Defense Force, which is part of a Saudi-led coalition fighting the Houthis. 4 Bahraini soldiers died after drone strike near the Saudi-Yemen border late last month, Bahrain's biggest loss since 5 soldiers were killed in 2015. Save the Children is suspending its operations in northern Yemen after one of its staff died in detention in the country's rebel-held capital. The aid worker, 44-year-old Hisham al-Hakimi, was suspected to have been tortured to death in Houthi custody. This report has more.
Save the Children is suspending its operations in northern Yemen after one of its staff died in detention in the country's rebel-held capital, it said on Thursday. The suspension announced it will halt programs such as health and nutrition, education, child protection, food security, and livelihoods in the country's north, much of which is held by the Houthi rebels. The charity's projects in southern Yemen will be unaffected by the suspension. Father of 4, Hisham al-Hakimi, who worked as the group's safety and security director, was detained on September 9th while off duty. Prior to his transfer to Sana'a, al-Hakimi managed humanitarian operations in Syrian refugee camps in Jordan. The 44-year-old had been a fixture at the British organization for 15 years and was pleased to serve in Sana'a. Last September, al-Hakimi was intercepted by a unit of Houthi intelligence operatives who were trailing him on his way home. He was reportedly blindfolded by the agents and taken to an unidentified location. His family reports a complete halt in communication following the unlawful arrest. Al-Hakimi's family reported that they refused to speak to the media in a bid to alleviate the conditions of Hisham's detention and facilitate his release. The family committed to their silence until they were called up to retrieve Hisham's dead body. The Houthi intelligence authorities claimed Hisham died of a heart attack, but his family maintains that the aid worker had not suffered any prior health conditions. Suspecting that Hisham was tortured to death, the family demanded an autopsy first. According to the family, the fact that they were barred from visiting him, knowing about the allegations against him, or obtaining counsel to represent him throughout detention affirms their belief that his death was not natural and that he was tortured before dying.
Massam Project held a photographic exhibition to highlight patterns of violations against children. The exhibition presented a number of pictures illustrating the grave violations that the Yemeni children have been exposed to for several years. The exhibition was attended by the representatives of the Arab Coalition Force in Aden, Director of the Yemen Reconstruction Office, and the Brigadier General. Coming up in the news. Displaced families in liberated areas in Hodeidah province face dire humanitarian conditions. Welcome back. In Hodeidah, specifically Hais, the displaced people are suffering from living conditions and constant suffering due to the concerned authorities' neglect. Haj Said Talib and his wife live in difficult conditions. His wife suffers from a deformity in her hand as a result of a fracture. She suffered from for a while and she is in urgent need for treatment. This report has more.
The United Nations confirms that the Yemeni crisis is still one of the largest humanitarian crises in the world, as there are about 12.6 million people in need of some form of humanitarian assistance in 2023. And 80% of the population suffers from difficulty obtaining food, safe drinking water, and adequate health services. Talking about the displaced is an open story filled with troubles. In Hodeidah Governorate, this elderly woman's fingers became stiff due to a fracture in her hand, and she could not find anything to treat it. It became disfigured as a result, and she is in dire need of help. She lives with her elderly husband in a shabby yard. Both of them have been spoiled by circumstances and the hardship of living, and they have not found anyone to support them.
We've been living here in this small hut for 2 years now. We don't have any furniture or electronic sets. We can't even get a proper tent to live in. Humanitarian organizations haven't visited us for so long. The humanitarian organizations are not supporting us with anything. We've been living on the streets under the rains and no one helped us with anything. Who are managing these organizations? What is their role exactly? They should replace the management with a better one. People are really suffering here and no one cares about them.
The tragedy here continues in the city of Hais, south of Hodeidah. The homes of the displaced are destroyed and the privation of the simplest things that keep these residents alive. This is life with empty stomachs that cannot find food or drink. All this tragedy is met with negligence from organizations that do not take into account their duties or perform their humanitarian role as they should. Isn't it time for those concerned to wake up to the reality of what these displaced people are suffering? Or did they drown in their pleasures and neglect their duties?
بن ثياب نشطط يعني ثياب نروح عن القرى نحوس وهذا نروح بثياب ونصلحها مآولنا وكراتين من الشوارع. والله إن احنا نكره يجي المطر يخسع لنا البطانيات يخسع الفراش يخسع الجماش نسمر برادة خاسعين احنا وجهالنا.
فالمأوى الانتقالي هذا الكنتيرة جعلتهم يعيشوا في استقرار للمستفيدين من ناحية سواء من ناحية الأمطار أو لا من ناحية العواصف والرياح والرملية، بما أنه عندنا هنا في مأرب الرياح بتكون شديدة.
The Minister of Planning and International Cooperation discussed in Aden with the representative of UNICEF strengthening of joint cooperation. The minister noted the importance of UNICEF's interventions in a number of vital sectors and its support for the government's efforts to alleviate human and societal suffering. For his part, the representative of the UNICEF in Yemen stressed the organization's keenness to continue supporting government's efforts. The Undersecretary of Ma'rib launched a health awareness campaign on the 6 health messages in the population center of health facilities. During the inauguration, the Undersecretary heard from the Director of the Public Health and Population an explanation about the campaign. The Undersecretary stressed on those implementing the campaign to correct the health information spread among society in dealing with preventing diseases. In Abian Governorate, an old factory returned to service for producing vegetable oils extracted from cotton and sunflower seeds, a return in which citizens see a positive step that will provide them with a good product and revive cotton cultivation in their governorate. More details in the next report.
In the oils factory in Abian, the old machines returned to life after decades of stopping. This factory dates back to the period of the late President Salamine. It specializes in producing vegetable oils extracted from cotton seeds and sunflowers. Currently, the factory has begun producing limited quantities of vegetable oils with the hope of expanding production as raw materials become available and instruments better.
مصنع الزيت قوة الإنتاجية في اليوم.
The power of production of this factory is around 2,800 litre per day and 21 tons of animals' livestock. Now, we started operating the factory with low quantities, which we got from the cotton gin, and we distribute the places such as Sayoun. However, the production does not cover other areas.
Refining vegetable oils from seeds goes through several stages until they reach the consumer. In these stages, the sufficient experience of the two scholars plays an important role, especially the ability to deal with oil refining and production machines.
We started phase 1 of the production as a beginning stage using simple tools. We hope that the governor will provide us with seeds and export raw materials from Djibouti, Kenya, Ethiopia to be able to get production with high quality, which lasts for the whole year.
Citizens in the immediate vicinity of the oil refinery plant in Abian are optimistic and see the starting of operations as a step in the right direction to get oil with excellent specifications and at a reasonable price. Operating the vegetable oils factory in Abian to the extent that it brought the machines back into operations. As much as its money is beneficial, it is also in replanting the high-quality cotton for which Abian Governorate was once famous.
Here is a reminder of the main headlines. During an emergency meeting of the United Nations General Assembly, Arab group condemns Israel's genocide in Gaza. Cyclone Taj causes serious damage in Al Mahra and Hadramaut governorates, displacing thousands. Save the Children organization halts Yemen operations after staffer killed in Houthis jail. This is the end of the news. Thank you for streaming with us. It was Abir Ali.